Hi, everyone. Welcome to another interview episode of my podcast, Your Hospitality Moment That Mentors. And today we are with Jill Woods again. Jill Woods and I are partners in crime in writing, as well as with Bet on Hospitality. We are a book writing, educating, and training duo. Welcome, Jill, again.
Thank you.
All right, here's something you need to know. Jill Woods is currently the dual director of sales for Aimbridge Hospitality in Indianapolis Downtown market. She is representing both the Courtyard by Marriott at the Capitol and the Residence Inn on the Canal. All right, so everybody knows Jill is my resident sales professional in my life that consults with me and advises me on all things sales, especially when mentoring my students. However, Jill and I have both also worked in operations together. And so we're going to talk about operations a little today. More specifically, we had a great conversation not too long ago about what to do when there's a leak in the building. So Jill, can you tell us about what experiences you've had with water leaks and really how to properly handle them? What is the first thing that needs to be done?
Um, Always the first thing is hopefully you have another voice of reason because um, when you have that first experience, you freeze. Like no matter how much you've prepared, you kind of freeze for a moment and you forget the steps that need to be followed. So what's funny is I can recognize when someone else is freezing and needs to like kick into action, but they need someone to tell them because they're like in awe. My first leak, I was so in love with the building and the lobby. And when it happened, I didn't know what to do. And it was a sprinkler line that had frozen and then thawed and burst the pipe. And when that happens, it spills copious amounts of water into the lobby. It was right through the front doors and on your front desk. So there's computers, there's
Yes.
everything. And that much water on hardwood floors, it's
Mhm.
like instant buckling. It happens so fast that there's no way to do except to sit there and go, okay, you kind of have to wait a moment and get your mind set. So my first one, I did lose a little bit. And luckily you were there to you had just left the building and I called you. And yeah, I'm not a crier or anything, but that day I came like dangerously close because
Yeah,
I really had never had something like that happen in a hotel.
sure.
So, but then I was the GM and I was supposed to be the voice of reason. And sometimes you're not thinking that way. You're kind of thinking grab towels, and it's so much bigger than a grab towels thing.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, uh, luckily, we had maintenance on hand, and they knew to get to the emergency valve. Except the fire department got there so quick that they actually were like, "Well, we have to figure out what's going on before you can just shut everything down." So sometimes when you have the fire department respond that quickly, you don't get to do the process that you want to do, which is shut the source of the water off.
Sure.
And every hotel I've been in since then, whether I'm in operations or sales, that's often my first thing is that everyone on staff should know where the emergency water shutoff is. Because if it's
Absolutely.
not a fire, you're going to have a lot of damage happen quickly. So that's always like my first thing now is thinking, well, where's the source? How big is it? Find it. And in some hotels, there's only like one main water shut off. And then there's smaller ones throughout the building. Those smaller ones are harder to get to. So sometimes you have to figure out, shut everything down, figure out where the leak is, shut that off locally, and then you can have your water back on. But you're not thinking like that when it initially happens. You're kind of like, the devastation, it's horrible.
Sure.
What do we do? And I know that weekend we happened to have a full house
That's
of
right.
cheerleaders. Yeah, it was already like a hectic weekend and there was just so much to get done, but you do get done. But now it's like I said, it sticks in my mind that everyone on staff needs to know where the emergency water shutoff is and other vital things. It just brings up the whole thing of if you have alarms and sensors going off, you need to know A, where the shutoff is, B, can you shut it off and should you, and C, what are the companies and the vendors that you need to be able to communicate with to get everything resolved quickly, because the cleanup job, the faster you get it resolved, the sooner the cleanup can happen.
Absolutely.
So it's just it's like close to my heart because I feel like it is, I don't know, you get attached to your buildings, especially when you're selling them. You're so proud and
Sure.
you want clients and groups to like love your building. So when something happens to it, even if you're in sales with no operations experience, you still need to be able to speak to clients and groups, and you need to be able to intellectually give them the information they need to know and how fast you guys are going to ramp back up to take care of them.
Absolutely. Awesome. And I remember that day. I think I was headed, I had just worked breakfast for you that particular day, helping out because it was a very busy weekend. And I had gotten my car and I was headed to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Where was I going? I think I was going to Ruby Tuesdays for the salad bar. And I pulled up and the phone rang and I noticed it was you, and you were like, "You gotta come back." And I did. I turned right back around. But we knew that the first thing, like you said, and this is really the mentoring moment that needed to be done, was to shut off the water source so that you really can minimize any damage that you have. And I do remember that the water was coming right there in the lobby onto
Mm-hmm.
our computers. And so getting those covered to minimize any damage to our property management system was key.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
also, I really talk a lot with my students about, management skills, leadership skills, and that the traditional skills that we hear about are democratic, okay, which is, let's all sit down and discuss how to handle this problem. You cannot do that when there's a leak. So you really need to access that autocratic leadership
Mm-hmm.
skill, which is, it's my way because I am the supervisor. I'm the one who has the knowledge and possibly has gone through this before. And so I have to be the one that's in charge in this
Mm-hmm.
particular situation. And so I love you mentioning that once you start working in a hotel, if this is, your first time getting to know your building, you really need to make sure that along the list of, areas that you tour is, where is the main water valve and how
Mm-hmm.
do I access it? How do I cut that off? Not to say that you will have a leak, but
But you
in your
will probably have a leak.
lifetime, absolutely, in your lifetime of working, in a hotel, if you're going to be there for many years, you most likely will have a
Yeah.
leak. And so it is important to know how to access where to shut off the water and to
Mm-hmm.
use your autocratic skills to be able to tell people what they need to do in that emergency moment. So
Mm-hmm.
very, very key.
Yeah. It's funny. Once the water got shut off and the process started,
Sure.
everybody kind of, you can bring in more voices to go, well, we're a full hotel. How are we going to handle check-ins today? Can we move that to a different part of the hotel?
Absolutely.
What signage goes up? How are we
Yes.
going to do breakfast? And what does that look like? And it's funny, like you said, someone has to do the main thing of shut off the water,
Mhm.
stop the damage from happening, and then the cleanup, but not just the cleanup, the organization of the rest of the day. You're going to have a long day. call people at home and say, I don't know when I'm getting out of here. We've
Sure.
had an issue. But then to be able to bring in your team of people to go, oh, here's how we could do breakfast. And housekeeping can be like, okay, here's the rooms we're going to have out of order. This is what we can do here. And then your front desk supervisor or manager saying, I think we could move check-in over to this part. And, we may need some technical support to make sure that happens. But this is what I think. And you realize, okay, I don't have to decide everything. I just had to stop the main damage.
Absolutely.
And then let everybody do what they already do best, is figure out solutions. And because you're going to be on the phone with insurance, your ownership group, your management company, multiple times, you're going to be stuck on the phone, and you need to know that people will kind of keep the effort going. So that's just really key. And again, until you have it happen, you don't realize how important it is.
For sure. Well, everyone, thank you for listening in or watching this episode of Your Hospitality Moment That Mentors. And that's a wrap. Thank you so very much for being now my regular guest, Jill. I truly, truly appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Always.